Good morning, this is Kinninigan from RagingReptilian.com. One of the probably most infamous sites besides the Pyramid of Giza, which they don't know who built that either, but I do. It was thought the Atlantean. Göbekli Tepe has been a mystery for the time it's been recently excavated, which is only like the past 30 years. It was originally found in 1960 in Turkey. Not going to do a lot of reading about this because Göbekli Tepe has been on every show from ancient archaeology shows all the way up to ancient aliens. And guess what? The same consensus. Let me just read you the first. This is your typical article on Göbekli Tepe, or any researcher that wants to look into it. But what I'm going to say, this doesn't have to be a long video. Göbekli Tepe was built by the reptilian Anunnaki. The only reason why you haven't been able to figure that out is because you don't know what you're looking for when you're looking for a reptilian. Or you don't know that the Anunnaki were reptilian. What do I mean by that? Well, the entities that built Göbekli Tepe are on the reliefs there. Except, I think people know where I'm going with this. So, let me just show you one thing as an image, an example here, and we'll talk about this. This is one of the infamous reliefs from, now, Göbekli Tepe. The site is actually spread throughout Turkey, okay? Turkey is ancient Mesopotamia. Let me show you another picture I have from Turkey. This is now, they have confirmed that Göbekli Tepe is a temple complex. When Marduk comes down and founds Babylon, he builds, well, it's actually 600. It's 300 above and 300 below of the Anunnaki to rule over jurisdictions in Mesopotamia. Our whole country, our whole world is still set up by jurisdictions. This is a concept that goes back to Babylon. This is why police have jurisdiction. This was another ancient temple site found in modern-day Turkey. And you know what I find amazing too is a lot of these old sites like Göbekli Tepe and this one in Turkey are not very easy to travel to. I think that's by design. What are you looking at? You're looking at a reptilian Anunnaki eagle head right there. And this was a temple complex. I've shown this picture quite a few times. Right. Oh, it gets better though. So, Göbekli Tepe. Like I said, why don't they invite me on Ancient Aliens one day? History Channel needs to put down their pride and get Kinninigan on there, because I gave up on Ancient Aliens. They can't explain how the Pyramid of Giza was built. It was built by Thoth, the Atlantean. They can't explain who built Göbekli Tepe. All they say is there's anthropomorphic creatures on here. That's their exact words, too. Anthropomorphic creatures. We don't know what they are. Well, I can decipher some. This one is obviously looks like a bull. This one in here in the middle. Is this why I'm saying they were built by reptilians? No. Actually, that one looks more like a crocodile. It's this relief over here. You see what I'm looking at, everyone? This relief over here has a bird-looking hominoid on it. Well, does that sound familiar if you've been following my research? Did I teach people that the Anunnaki look like the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal? And we have an entity on one of the reliefs from Göbekli Tepe that looks like a Skeksis from the Dark Crystal? Maybe Kinninigan's not so crazy, teaching people that Alpha Draconian reptilians, and the inspiration quite possibly for Jim Henson's Dark Crystal theory in the beginning, was derived from Sumeria. In fact, I proved that in the infamous Dark Crystal movie from 1983, when the Gelflings first meet Chamberlain. Chamberlain is a word that comes out of the Epic of Gilgamesh, and I'll be referring that there's a reason why. Because there's something else that ties Göbekli Tepe to the Anunnaki. And it has to do with the Epic of Gilgamesh, of all things. But in the movie, Jim Henson, when Chamberlain first meets the Gelfling, and the video's on my channel, Jim Henson has reliefs on the wall that look like they were taken right from Sumeria of the Anunnaki. And I've been teaching people their eagle head. This is why I re-uploaded the video the other day about them being more like eagles. This is why Rome picked the eagle to be their logo. This is why our current, well, follow the eagle. That's what I've been telling people. So what came about this revelation? Well, every morning I scan the news because I'm really not trying to talk. Well, I ranted about Pelosi yesterday. Of course, that video was demonetized. So, gotta go back to teaching about reptilians here. And yeah, I mean, come on. This is the mainstream archaeology that can't explain this. What? I mean, come on. How could you look at these reliefs here? Now, the reason why I was mentioning the Epic of Gilgamesh, we have these obvious-looking, bird-looking hominoids over here. We know that the wall reliefs in Sumeria show these eagle-looking creatures on them. This is the reference right here to the Epic of Gilgamesh, talking about the scorpion people. They are talked about. Now this site, I think what's confused a lot of people about Göbekli Tepe is it's not built any other way. I don't know how they it probably was a temple, no doubt, to worship the Anunnaki, for the humans to worship their reptilian gods. No big. But the construction, I think, kind of baffled people for a while, because the only distinct thing that we know that comes from Babylon are the ziggurat pyramids, which strangely look very close and similar to the step pyramids that we get from the Aztecs with Quetzalcoatl. They look like the pyramids that we get from the Maya. Maya means illusion, and the Mayan civilization supposedly disappears. There's a crazy conspiracy going around there tying him with Cthulhu, of all things, that when he went in his 500-year meditation into the Pacific, he took the Mayan civilization with him. And when Cthulhu arises, it will be the ushering in of the New World Order. Oh, you never heard about that version of the New World Order, have you? Yes, that is when Cthulhu rises from his 500-year slumber. And it was theorized that Cthulhu took human sacrifice at the top of the step pyramids in so we know that those pyramids in ancient times have well, I know they have a very Sumerian influence construction. I think what threw people off about Göbekli Tepe is it obviously doesn't. Technically, the ancient alien theory would be correct, because the Alpha Draconians were an invasive species when they took down Atlantis and set up Babylon. So, I would say that this was a temple built by the reptilians. This is probably why we're getting a lot of these. Let me show you another creature that's infamous on Göbekli Tepe. That one stands out the most, though. There are some other reliefs that are quite interesting. It's this one here. Now, people have, I think that what some of these creatures on here are showing, that is obviously a rabbit, okay? This looks like a big lizard. That actually does not look like a crocodile. Could it be that when Babylon was first set up, when Atlantis first fell, around the time when Göbekli Tepe was built, was it possible that humans were still coexisting with dinosaurs? Well, it wouldn't be the first time that theory was thrown around, because there are, I'd have to make a separate video on it. There are we have oparts, and what an opart is an out-of-place object. Opart is just a fancy way for the mainstream to say, oh, we don't know who built this, or they don't want to admit who built it, okay? The idea of humans coexisting with dinosaurs has been going on quite a long time. But basically, so on these reliefs of Göbekli Tepe, we see different animals. This one, though, this is not why I'm saying Göbekli Tepe was built by reptilians, because they do not look like that, but that looks typically more like an ancient dinosaur. It is this relief that I'm talking about, the one that with the obvious Skeksis looking bird on it. We know that the Anunnaki, they did have eagle's heads. Here is an authentic reptilian statue right here. So, you know, maybe one day you know what, they're never going to call me up for Ancient Aliens. You got to be a Freemason to get on that show. Oh, I didn't just tell you that, did I? Yeah, you know, every person that shows up on Ancient Aliens, because I'm tired of gatekeeping for Luciferians anymore. They're either Luciferian or Freemason. Every single person who appears on that show, okay? Read between the lines on that one. I'm not naming names. Because when it comes to the ancient reptilian theory, they never get it right. But, I don't know. I'm going to have to make my own Ancient Aliens TV series and show you the truth. So this is why I'm saying Göbekli Tepe was built by reptilians. The reason why I had this, I'm not going to read this article. Hidden geometric pattern reveals deeper complexity of Göbekli Tepe. In a nutshell, it means they were built with advanced intelligence, obviously. People skilled in mathematics. Math originates in Babylon, but the mathematical system that they used in Sumeria is not the same as the one we use today. Ours is divisible by 10. They used a more precise mathematics system in Babylon, where they used it in equations of 6. And ours goes in, I think you get the idea. We go by 10. In Sumeria, they used an algebra system that used 6, and it was more precise. I had made a video about that. The only theory that I came up with this is the reason they changed around the mathematics system. It was the equivalent of Common Core education at the time, dumbing people down. Why do humans need advanced mathematics? So, yes, very strange. There are other mathematical systems out in the universe besides ones that go in increments of 10. I don't know if you knew that. The Sumerians used one that went by increments of 6, and it was more precise. What do I mean by that? Well, you see, you take 10 times 10, you get 100. You try to divide 100 by an odd number, and you always wind up with a remainder. Like, oh, what's the favorite, 3 goes into 100, what? 33%. You ever see that 33% off on every product that you go in the store? 33. Yeah, they're throwing it right in your face. There's a reason for that. The system that the Sumerians used was more accurate and could be divided upon itself. That's a separate, this ain't a mathematics lesson. So going back to this stone, they don't even know what these creatures are. I'm guessing that one is obvious crocodile or alligator. But oh, and there's other gatekeepers when it comes to Göbekli Tepe. Since 1994, when it's been excavated, the people in charge of releasing a lot of the quote-unquote information of this site, let me just give you 2 names here. 2 Israeli archaeologists, one from Tel Aviv University and the other one in Cambridge, are the ones releasing the studies on this, okay? I just gave you more facts about Göbekli Tepe in 15 minutes than these idiots have given you in over 30 years. They were built by reptilians. We don't know what these creatures are on the stones. We don't know how they built them. We just know that they were really smart in math. Please. Okay. You know what? There are a lot of ancient sites that they can't explain how it was built. Baalbek comes to mind. That's where the Romans supposedly built the temple of Bacchus, but the Romans have no history of them actually building that temple. And if you know anything about the temple of Bacchus, it's impossible for humans to build. Same thing with the temple of the Cyclops in ancient Greece. Because a lot of these sites, some of these sites could be attributed to giants. That would be like the temple of the Cyclops, obviously. And Baalbek. And the temple of Bacchus could easily have been built by giants, but these, not necessarily. It was a temple complex. I'm assuming that the reason for all the animals on the stones was, this is in a lot of the Sumerian texts, they talk about animals and what Marduk brought to the earth, the cattle and all that, going back to the bull and the one image. Maybe some of these animals were bioengineered. Maybe some of them were on the planet already. Maybe some of them, like that strange dinosaur-looking animal, were alive that went out of its extinction. Why they would put a scorpion on there? There's thousands of insects. Why put a scorpion on here? Well, there's a reference to scorpion people in the Epic of Gilgamesh. And why is there bird-looking eagle people on here? Probably goes back to this. This is why Göbekli Tepe, you're not going to find 1,200-pound reptiles carved into the stone. You'll see alligators and dinosaurs and other strange creatures. Well, they're not really strange. They would just have to admit that there was a time on the planet when humans coexisted with dinosaurs. But they would also have to admit that Sumeria was run by reptilians. So there goes my take on the mystery of Göbekli Tepe. There have been a lot of people make a lot of videos about it. Never hear anything good or groundbreaking come from the research. I believe that's mainly because people don't know what they're looking for. So obviously, I'll put these links in the description if you're curious. This is 15 insane facts about Göbekli Tepe, because that's the kind of articles we get about Göbekli Tepe. And the first line in this article is, Göbekli Tepe just doesn't make sense. Yeah, okay, thanks for the then it just goes through, and they don't know how old it is. They say the Pyramid of Giza is only 6,000 years old. Please. The remains seem to have been backfilled by those who built it. There could be dozens of reasons why it was filled in with debris. Predates Stonehenge. They can't accurately date it. The architecture was far ahead of its time. Well, look, I live in Philadelphia. Our city, and I work on a lot of houses. I used to be a house painter. When Philadelphia and other East Coast cities were first built, like New York, the Italians that came over from Italy and settled in our city, okay, they brought a lot of their old craftsmanship to America. So a lot of our old houses in Philadelphia and the East Coast are made with like brick and hand plastered walls done by Italian plasterers. Now, every new construction house is just built with cardboard, which is known as sheetrock, and inferior wood and inferior building supplies. Basically, they sell you a polished piece of shit when you buy a new house now. They'll throw some nice granite and marble and carpets in there and paint it for you. You could polish a turd. You ever hear that? But the construction... Look, I've seen a decline in construction in our own city over the past 100 years compared to new construction houses to old construction. So, to go back to a site like Göbekli Tepe and say, oh, it was far ahead of its time, yeah, that's why we can't explain why the Pyramid of Giza was built either, or all these other ancient sites. Come on, humans. No, humans couldn't build it, but whoever said humans built it, right? The effort required to build it was ridiculous. This is the kind of mainstream garbage we get on sites like Göbekli Tepe. It's made up of a series of temples. Yeah, and that would be temples dedicated to the Anunnaki gods. That's where the idea of temples actually comes from. The L at the end of temple is a reference to Enlil. The largest top stones weigh up to 10 tons. Yeah, well, whatever. There are sites out there that do have heavier stones than 10 tons. Trying to go through here, see if there's any more carvings they show. This one's, it's really hard to see on video. That's this Skeksis looking creature again. It was built by hunter-gatherers at the end of the Ice Age. Okay, this is where I stop. They want you to believe that the troglodytes... Now, I've put a theory out about troglodytes before, and their association with all things Sasquatch. But they expect you to believe that troglodytes, cavemen, just came out of the cave one day and said, let's build Göbekli Tepe. We just figured out advanced mathematics and how to fill 10-ton stones. Wow. That's why the mainstream narrative falls apart. Yeah. Like I said, they want to invite Kinney on Ancient Aliens. I'd make all the researchers look like idiots. So that's my rant about Göbekli Tepe. It was built by reptilians. The Anunnaki, probably. This is why the mainstream can't explain who built it and why. Because they don't even know what they're looking for. You're looking for reptilians that look like the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal. Which, strangely, looks like the bird over here. Because that's not a normal looking bird. That's something else there. And the scorpion below it is a reference to the scorpion men out of the Epic of Gilgamesh. Then we just have other reliefs with other animals. That's obviously looks like a crocodile. Some of them could have been dinosaurs left over from the dinosaur age. Anyway, it's going to be all for my take on Göbekli Tepe. All these links will be in the description. Any questions or comments, leave them below. Until we speak again, this is Kinninigan, and take care.